Looking for wisdom you can trust. Welcome to The Judge Speaks with retired Judge Hubert Grimes, a place for real conversations about faith, family, leadership, law, community, and the decisions that shape our lives. Every Tuesday at 12 noon on Daytona's favorite station, WAIG Joy 106.3 FM, Daytona Beach, Florida. Real conversations, real wisdom, real solutions. And now, The Judge Speaks with retired Judge Hubert Grimes. Tune in, be encouraged, be inspired.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Hubert Grimes here on The Judge Speaks. So glad that you could be with us here today. Certainly here in Daytona Beach, we are in the month of August already. You know, it seems like summer was just here. We were just talking about Memorial Day, and certainly we need to talk about Memorial Day, and then right soon thereafter it was 4th of July. But we know that all of this is just an example. As we say, August represents what we refer to as the new beginnings, the number 8. And so we are so glad that you all are with us here on this very first Tuesday in the month of August, and we're going to be doing our best to continue to do what we do here on Joy 106.3 FM. We always talk about the fact that it's inspirational. You heard some very beautiful music leading into my coming on. Certainly, Order My Steps has become my trademark. It's a song that's been in my life for over 30 plus years. In fact, it was a song that we used as part of our wedding ceremony when Daisy and I got married. And so it continues to provide inspiration to me and hopefully to those of you that are out there. As part of that, we also not only provide inspiration, but we try to provide information, because that information is going to help you to live a better life and to always keep you aware of what's going on around us. A lot of what we talk about, of course, are things in the legal arena, in the political arena, in the educational arena. All of these things that I believe taken together will help us to be able to become better stewards of the blessings that we have received. So as we get started here today, again, welcome to all of you out there. Feel free to call up a friend and let them know that we're here. Not only that, but also feel free to join us on our Facebook page, Joy 106.3 FM Facebook page, or you can connect on the Hubert Grimes Facebook page. For those of you that are wanting to give call-ins, you can reach us at 386-222-1581, 386-222-1581. Excuse me. I've been doing a lot of talking this morning since the early beginnings. I can tell you I did a training workshop prior to coming on for the show today, and so, you know, anytime I'm involved with that, that means I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. But I'll talk a little more about that a little later in our program here today. But we're so excited, again, because it is August, and August represents the beginning of school year again. And as I was traveling around the city early this morning, couldn't help but see school buses out and about. And there were several of them, and they seemed to be literally learning their routes. Because our high schools and secondary schools all start next week, for the kindergarten, preschool, elementary, middle, high school, all starting up next week. And of course, on the post-secondary level, the college level, those are also in the mix as well. And we just want to again, shout out and welcome to those who are in either one of those particular categories. We know that school is very important. We talk about school here a lot on our show. In fact, we're going to be talking today with one of our guests on the role of HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, their role, their history, and their importance. And so that's very important to me. And you can say that that's one of the hallmarks or foundations of my conversations here. Somewhere along the way, I'm going to talk about an HBCU. Why? Because they gave me my HBCU, Kentucky State University, gave me my foundation, and it has helped me to be able to achieve the career guidance that I've needed, and it helped me to be able to be prepared to go to law school, to be prepared to take the bar exams in Georgia and also in Florida, to be able to carry out the role and responsibilities I've had as a lawyer. I always trace that back to the foundation that I got there, and in terms of how do you go about things, how do you write, how do you analyze. It also taught me how to get along with people, how to engage, and how to be able to stand up for what we believe is right. So all of those things kind of help underline the reasoning that I have why I believe our HBCUs are so critically important in the growth and development, not just for me, but for our next generation of young people. So again, we're going to talk about that a little later in the program. But to begin with, on a personal level, I'm again grateful. Here we are in August. August is, July was a month of multiple birthdays in my family. Goddaughter had a birthday. Good friend had a birthday. Two good friends, the Thompsons. Shout out to Joan Thompson, who had a birthday this past month. And of course, Lynn Thompson also had a birthday that just happened to coincide with my daughter Evan's birthday on the 28th. So shout out and belated happy birthday to him. Happy birthday to Evan. Happy birthday to Daisy. Daisy's birthday was also during this time period on the 24th. So it was a busy month. Latoya's birthday was on the 13th. So we had birthdays throughout the month of July. But we're shifting gears to August, and we got another batch of birthdays that are going to be coming up in August. And so shout out to all the birthday people. And in fact, we've got a birthday today of none other than former President Barack Obama's birthday is today. And if memory serves me correct, he is 63 years old today. He was young when he literally it's been almost 20 years since he was president. He got elected president in election of 2008, and so he was still in his mid 40s when he got elected. And of course, he broke racial barriers in order to do so. So happy birthday, Mr. President. Hope that you are having a great time, a great celebration. We know that you recently had the ribbon cutting for the presidential Barack Obama Presidential Center, and he said it was more than just a library, and that's why they called it a center, because it was for the purpose of educating people in the community, but it was also for the purpose of using it for multiple things. It really was a multi-purpose center because because you can have various activities. It's historical on the one hand, recreational on the other. It certainly is a place and space that we all can be proud of. So shout out again to President Barack Obama. Happy birthday today. On a national level, as a lawyer, we always get impressed with some of the things. I kind of try my best to keep up with some of the national happenings. And this past a few days ago, there was a lot of hoopla about the situation that had occurred out at the reflecting pool there in the center of the Capitol grounds there in D.C. And of course, the president wanted to have it. He bragged about it being, he said it was molded. He called it a whole bunch of names. And so he decided to go out and they hired a company, sole source. No other bids were taken. And they hired this company that he knew. And there was several $1 million involved with this thing. And they completely drained the pool, and then maybe that's what he meant by draining the swamp. They were going to drain the reflecting pool, and they did. And then they did some repairs to it, but it was obvious that they did not take. And as a result of that, there was not long after, there was a lot of other what I take it was mold because it was green, but then there was other kinds of buckling of the material that was put down to order to hold the what we would call to pad the bottom. Well, there was some problems with that. People were taking pictures of it around the 4th of July, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do. And so the some of the material kind of bulked up, and so they ended up arresting a former Olympic athlete, claiming that he had engaged in criminal mischief, that he had torn some of the sheeting underneath the pool, and that was in itself designed as a protest. Well, he was actually arrested, and along with three other people. But as it turns out, I saw on yesterday that the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, used to be on Fox News, actually dropped the charges against him because, though she had said at the time of the initial arrest that they were going to be able to prove the criminal mischief beyond and to the exclusion of a reasonable doubt. She said all that, and that's the standard that you have to have for criminal cases. But once she started getting into discovery and finding out what was going on, she realized that she didn't have that level of information, so she could not do so. So she decided that they couldn't prove it, and they realized that it was not the result of any mischief on the part of this gentleman, but it was indeed as a result of improper, I guess we can say on the one hand, improper maintenance, but also the materials that they used to try to redo the pool. All that stuff was not done properly. Well, I think President Trump got upset with her for dropping the charges, and he commented in a news conference yesterday that she was wrong, she was bullied, that somebody else forced her to do it, and he was very disappointed with her for doing so. So it almost sounded as if he was going to fire her. And we know that these U.S. attorneys do serve at the pleasure of the president. And so she, of course, has been one of his staunchest supporters. So we're going to wait and see what happens. But that's an interesting piece on the on the role of the law. You know, we're still seeing many of these situations. Y'all have to hold on for a minute because the Florida heat is starting to bother with me over here. So I got to take this jacket off. But it is indeed another example of some of the crazy stuff going on in Washington. Currently there's okay, we're gonna get this right here in just a minute. They're having hearings on they're trying to determine if the interim or acting Attorney General Todd Blanchett's going to be confirmed as the next Attorney General. There was something yesterday that happened. He supposedly sent a couple letters to the two senators that had been holdouts. They were Republican holdouts, and they wanted to guarantee that there was not going to be a repeat of this, and people call it the slush fund, where the president the president has sued the Internal Revenue Service, which is one of his agencies that works for him. He has sued them because he said that they had wrongly disclosed his financial information. So he sued them. Now, interesting, I'll digress. Most presidents actually give financial reporting of their finances at the time that they take office, but he is the one that has tried to fight against that, and as a result of that, he decided he was going to sue him. Somebody leaked the information. I think it was somebody that was on the outside of IRS but had a contractual relationship with IRS, and they found out who it was. I think that particular person is facing some federal charges for wrongful disclosure. The interesting thing is that most presidents before him have always given their financial information and made it public. Most elected officials, I being one, when I was in office as a judge, we had to file an annual financial disclosure, and it had to be done by July 1st of each year. And those who are serving in those roles even now still doing the same thing. I thought it was disingenuous for this man who was president of the United States to do so and to not disclose. But hey, be that as it may, stay tuned. The story continues. I want to rapidly move towards a couple other personal stories. I mentioned earlier that we've got the school starting back, BCU. Welcome back, Bethune-Cookman. Football team is practicing. I actually just saw them earlier today. They were out there in that heat, not in pads, but working out. The band, okay. Band's back, student leadership is back, welcome back, and to all the campuses here in Daytona Beach. And one other thing I'm going to talk about before I bring I've got my host on the line, so just going to ask her to just hold on for just, my guest rather, ask her to hold on for just 1 minute. Um, I was privileged last week to be a participant in the ribbon cutting of the Boys and Girls Club of Volusia Flaglers at new administrative offices that are here in Daytona Beach. They used to be over in DeLand. They moved them here as part of the development of a new facility at the former Turi T. Small Elementary School. And I held off on saying anything about this on the previous program because we wanted to make sure we got all the little bugs worked out. And so, again, you've heard from Dr. Kamisha Whitaker Samuel on this program. I'm going to have her back, I hope, next week so that she can talk more about what does this mean here locally to have a new Boys and Girls Club in conjunction with, in partnership with the Volusia County African American Leadership Council and, believe it or not, the Volusia County School Board. So shout out to Dr. Kamisha Whitaker Samuel, as well as to Miss Daisy Grimes, who led the effort on behalf of Volusia County African American Leadership Council to bring this to pass. And so we're going to get both of them in here, so we can talk about what does this mean, how many young people, how many kids will we be serving on that end of town, and of course, what are some of the reasons why this is such a milestone, pardon me, here in Daytona Beach to do so. However, my guest is on the line, and I'm going to go ahead and shift gears at this time. You earlier heard me say that HBCUs play such a significant role not only in my life but in the lives of many other people, and of course their history, their importance, their role. And I've got a wonderful sister today that's going to be sharing with y'all some great information as we look back, not only look back at the history of these great institutions, but also looking down the road in terms of where these institutions are going and how those of you that are out there in radio land can certainly play an important part in their continued development and expansion. So let me welcome to the Judge Speaks, Miss Adrienne Noel, a graduate of Howard University, the Bisons, and as they often say, HU.
I
knew she was going to do it.
Judge Grimes, it is great to be here with you. I want to say good afternoon to everyone who's out in the audience. It is a pleasure to be with you here today. So, Judge Grimes has really set this up in a beautiful way, but I'm going to let him take the lead in terms of what we're going to talk about. I know we're going to talk about HBCUs, but there are so many different areas that we could really dig into. So, Judge, I'm all yours.
All right. And folks, I tell you, man, she is such a wonderful, wonderful lady. She's very talented. But before we dive in too far about the overall school, let's talk about Miss Adrienne first. Let's talk about her. Let's talk about your background, because you still have as we always tease her, she's still got a bit of her accent. That we love to hear her talk, man. She's compelling not only in terms of what she says, but how she says it. So let's talk about you and how your background, please, from birth.
And it's funny. I come. When people ask about the accent, I'm like, what accent are you talking about? I hear your accent. I don't have an accent, but it's a I think quite an interesting story. And first of all, when people ask, so where are you from? I always ask, okay, so how far back do you want to go? How much time do you have? Mm-hmm. But the short story, the synopsis, as it were, I am originally from Trinidad and Tobago. That is a twin island republic in the Caribbean. We're just off the coast of South America. And I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of my neighbors, a lot of the members of our community that went off to college, the options were to either go to University of the West Indies,
Mm-hmm.
which is um, an institution that serves the English-speaking Caribbean. So
Mm-hmm.
they're in Trinidad, they're in Jamaica and Barbados. They've got campuses there and then satellite campuses in other islands.
Mm-hmm.
So the options were either to go there or to go to Howard University.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it's like we didn't even know that there were any other universities other than Howard University alongside University of the West Indies. Um, in my family, my mom's father, so my grandfather on my mom's side, was very, very progressive. He had four daughters, and he put all four of his kids through school. So they went to, well, I guess my grandfather, my grandmother sent all four of their daughters off to higher education.
Okay.
So my eldest aunt went to Howard University, and actually she stayed on to become a professor in the microbiology department at Howard University. So Howard has always been, something that we talked about in our family, either because we had family members, because also on my dad's side,
Mm-hmm.
he had cousins that went to Howard University and matriculated and then went off on to great careers from Howard University. So again, that was something that we always talked about. I did my undergraduate degree at University of the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was ready to do a master's in business administration, Howard just seemed like the natural course for me. And that is how I got to Howard. And it was a great time to be in Washington, D.C.
Bye
I mean,
bye.
I think it's always a great time to be there. You get a really unique perspective on how the country runs because it's the seat of the political power.
Mm-hmm.
And, anywhere else in the country you might read or hear about the elected officials that, the members of Congress
Mm-hmm.
and in the House. But in Washington, D.C., you have the opportunity to run into these people while they're out walking, they're doing things. Back when I was there, we could actually drive in front of the White House.
Mm-hmm.
They've now, subsequently shut road access in front of the White House, but we were able to drive in front on Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House, and I saw President Clinton and me, my roommate, her mom was in the car with us. We all yelled out, leaned out of the car and yelled, "Hello, Mr. President," and he turned around and waved at us. And
He
that
was he was that kind of guy. I thought maybe you were going to
he
say
was
you
that
saw
kind of guy,
that
yeah.
you saw him over at Ben's Chili Bowl.
Right? Well, that was another popular hangout. You're right
Yes,
about that.
yes, yes,
But
yes.
so I think being in DC really gives you that opportunity to see how our world, within the U.S., how it all works. Then after I graduated from Howard University, I was recruited by a company. Some of your listeners may know CSX Transportation.
Mm-hmm.
They are a railroad company serving about half of the U.S. with
Yes.
their tracks. Well, everything east of the tracks lay east of the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great learning opportunity for me in Jacksonville. And then I got a chance to come to Orlando, and I couldn't pass it up. This was to work with a startup firm, and I've been in the Orlando area ever since. So that was in 2000. Here I am. I'm a native Floridian now,
How about
right?
that?
I've
You
been
have
here.
you have been sunshined. We'll call it
Right,
that.
exactly.
You stay here long enough, you get sunshined. So we're grateful.
Exactly, and that's exactly it.
Well, your school, and I know this is
Mhm.
not a negative. Your school was in the news last
Yes,
week. I mean, but
yes.
Howard is that Howard? It's almost like the phrase of I remember Joe Joseph Lowry used to be head of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, used to say that when white people get a cold, black people get pneumonia. And I would say that when conversation occurs, Howard is always going to be up in the top leadership of whatever may be going on with HBCUs. I mean, they're profound. In fact, my son just finished their law school a couple months back.
Congratulations.
But yes, but and I have so many friends that went to Howard. But of course, a few, I guess in the last couple of weeks, they were getting beat up by the public media and social media because some young people, I think it said about 500 of them, did not, they got disenrolled because they did not complete the process. They either didn't, get their finances done, whether it be financial aid app, whether they be an outstanding balance, or they didn't get their housing done. And this is really not necessarily unusual for students transitioning into HBCUs. And that's one of the things that we always note is that, yes, when they send you off to a PWI, oftentimes you're kind of like, okay, you're on your own. You got to do what you need to do. Usually out at HBCU, you get some covering.
Right.
And how? Let's talk about that. Not so much about the negativity.
About that. Yeah. Well, I think there's some. Certainly, well, there are two things here. There is the context, which we'll just deal with that briefly. But I think that HBCUs have done a tremendous job in opening up opportunities for first-time university attendees.
Yes.
So we've got lots of history with making that opportunity available to the child who showed promise but might not have had the strongest presentation when applying for college. So there is a bit of I think, the lack of knowledge about how things go. Because if this is your first year coming into college, I work in the K through 12 system, and enrolling in public school is very different. You show up, you just tell them that you're coming. You don't even have to tell them you're coming. You show up on the first day of school, and the principal will scramble to ensure that you've got a classroom and a seat to attend. In higher education, it doesn't work like that. I was thinking it's ironic. You can't plan a dinner party without knowing who has RSVP'd.
How about that?
And for our students that are coming in, if you have not completed the enrollment process, you haven't got all of your financing together, you may be getting a scholarship award, which might come a little bit after classes have, after the deadline, but you've got to communicate with someone to let financial aid know and the bursar's office know, and all of these different departments that, again, in the K through 12 system, you don't deal with anything like that.
Right.
So there is a lack of knowledge that we probably need to appreciate. And part of it is because we have opened up the door to bring in folks who are not maybe the legacy students that you might find at other institutions. So again, we may have some families who just don't know how things work. And there's just so much that you have to do. It's, again, a completely different system as opposed to what you might have been exposed to in K through 12. So I am glad to hear that Howard has reopened the door to re-examine all of the cases. They've given those students, the grace of being able to pull their things together. So they've in fact gotten an extension.
Right.
And again, if you're in the academic world, the assignment is due on when it's due. maybe your professor will give or your teacher will give you grace to get an extension. And that's what Howard has done here.
But look
But
at
on the flip side, I'm sorry, Judge, let me not cut you off. What was that?
no, I was saying, you're right because it showed dual responsibility, and I appreciate that
Yeah.
because the kids, the young people going into college, this is the time for their learning responsibility that they got to follow
Mm-hmm.
through, and if they have not, they talk, well, I didn't get the email, or I didn't read the email, I didn't respond to the email. Well, that's part of that process of learning and becoming mature in those matters. And at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, on the Howard end, we have to constantly make sure that our administrators and our staffing are doing the things that they need to do to try to make sure that all of their I's are
Mm-hmm.
dotted and T's are crossed on their end.
Yeah.
But you know what else happened last week is in addition to, and they've resolved that. I mean, it has actually turned out what was intended to be a bad situation has now reflected good. I heard on one of the radio shows, I guess a couple of days ago, where the governor of Maryland has offered to some of those students who didn't get in
Yeah.
that they're going to provide
Yeah.
some special consideration if they want to go to any of the four HBCUs in Maryland.
HBCUs. Yeah.
But the other part of that piece is that, Howard is also a school that's in demand. So if you don't get
Yeah.
your act together, there are other people that are on the
Exactly.
waiting list, and they'll be happy to take that seat.
To
And
take that
and
exactly.
and we have seen an increase with this whole thing about elimination of affirmative action. We have seen an increase
Mm-hmm.
of approximately 7% in the number of students enrolling in HBCUs just in the past 2 years. And it's probably going to continue to increase. The
Yeah.
question is, do our schools have the capacity to absorb
Capacity.
all of
Yeah.
these particular students as they continue to want to, quote unquote, come back home?
Well, you raise a good point about capacity. And what I will say now that I am older and I've been around the world a little bit more.
Hmm.
Okay, back when I was 16, 17, 18, Howard University was the only HBCU, the only university I knew outside of the Caribbean.
Hmm.
However, we've got more than 100 HBCUs.
So true.
So I want to tell anyone who's in the audience who cares to listen, there is an HBCU experience for you or your
Hmm.
child, your grandchild, your
Hmm.
neighbor's child. There is an HBCU experience somewhere, anywhere. Yes, we've got the ones that have the most, the most
Publicity,
storied
yeah,
histories.
yeah.
They've got this long legacy that we're aware of. But our other sisters or brothers in the HBCU world also have an equally impressive history,
Hmm.
and they have been generating for generations, alumni that go out into the world to do big things. W.E.B. Du Bois,
Hmm.
Bessie Coleman attended an HBCU, Langston Hughes. I mean, we could look at Daniel Chappie James,
Hmm.
General Chappie James, Whitney Young, Tom
Thurgood
Joyner,
Marshall.
John
Yes.
Lewis. I mean,
Yes.
lots and lots of names. And then more contemporary alumni would include like Keisha Lance Bottoms,
Hmm.
Michael Strahan,
Hmm.
Vice President Harris, Chadwick
Yes.
Boseman. I mean, so, they didn't all go to one HBCU.
Right.
They attended many, many different schools. So I hope that all of our students who are looking for that experience are able to find their way. And yes, my alma mater is a great place to land, but there are equally another 100 plus
Yes.
institutions that are willing to welcome you and give you the shelter that you need.
And
Because
speaking of shelter, as you just said, I was thinking about the fact
Mhm.
that when you talk with some of the students now, many of them are saying that one of the reasons they have chosen, they could have gone anyplace else, uh, but they decided that they wanted to feel safe. And as you said,
Yes,
they give us
yes.
shelter, and there is such a,
Mhm.
unfortunately, this current administration has
Mhm.
really pushed the idea that makes a lot of young people feel unsafe on college campuses.
Mhm.
They've tried to
Yeah.
dictate what you could learn, by eliminating what they say programs that promote DEI. They've talked about eliminating or transfiguring black history to try to make it so that you don't, as it said, so that white kids don't feel bad about the history being taught. In reality, history is history, and no matter what happened, it is what it is. But all of these are reasons why that 7% number has increased, and we may be looking at something like a lot more. And look in terms of those numbers of young people who are coming back to our institutions, and we welcome them, because just like you and I both know that the impact that HBCU had on our life to help us to get to where we are and to experience a great career or multiple careers that all came about because we had that foundation.
And these are the relationships that you form while you're in college will go on to be your lifelong relationships. So these are the people that you're going to know who are the professionals in your career. And you want to build a wide network, but you also want to build up a network of people who you can trust. And so maybe I'm biased, but I think that you get a better chance of finding people who respect you for who you are and what you bring to the table, without getting caught up with some of the other things that you might encounter if you go to PWI.
So true, so true. Well, Adrian, can you stay with us here for just a moment? We're going to do a short, as we say, pause for the cause, and we'll be back. For our listeners out there, we'll be back in just a few. So give us a break as you're here on The Judge Speaks on Joy 106.3 FM, and we'll be joining you back here shortly.
WAIGLP, Daytona Beach, Joy 106.3.
Where do students and the locals go when it's time to refresh their look? Styles 101 Beauty Salon and Barbershop is the place. Conveniently located near Bethune-Cookman University on the corner of ISB and Lincoln Street. Styles 101 specialize in clean cuts, fresh fades, and more for the whole family, and beauty services for the whole family. Walk-ins or appointment welcome. 705 West International Speedway Boulevard is the address. 386-265-5257 is their number. Styles 101 Beauty Salon and Barbershop.
Now hiring barbers and stylists.
At PC 101 and Tax Right Services, we're here to handle your taxes with expertise. Whether it's this year's taxes or catching up on past years, we've got you covered. Schedule your one-on-one appointment today. Reach us at 386-363-5324. That is 386-363-5324. PC 101 and Tax Right Services, where taxes are done right. With convenient locations in Daytona and Ormond Beach, we make tax time stress-free and simple.
Tune in to Daytona Beach Radio with your host, Donna Gray Banks. This is the city's most exciting news and information program. Here on Joy 106.3 FM, every Wednesday beginning at 12 noon. Don't miss it.
Prima Broadcasting, Inc. is a registered 501c3 nonprofit. This means your donations are 100% tax deductible. The support from listeners just like you is what keep this station on the air. Feel free to visit our website, joy1063fm.com, to donate, or call 386-256-4706 for more ways to give. Thank you for your continued support.
Special thanks and support to WAIG comes from R.J. Gaines Funeral Home, where Alexander C. Wynn III, licensed funeral director and owner. R.J. Gaines Funeral Home provides full burial services, entombment, cremation, transporting services, pre-planning arrangements, and consultations. R.J. Gaines Funeral Home is located at 804 Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. R.J. Gaines Funeral Home, 386-253-7686.
right, and we're back. We're back, of course. Had to make sure that we get those commercials in, those public service announcements, so that people will know what's going on in our local community. And we shout out to all our sponsors who help to make this show possible, to keep this radio station on the air. And of course, we always want to encourage you that Joy 106.3 FM is indeed a not-for-profit institution. So if you'd like to support our show, if you'd like to support the radio station, you certainly may do so. You can call us again at the call-in number. We'll be happy to help you and, of course, get you here. You know, we're located at, I believe it's 777 West International Speedway Boulevard, across from or right next, adjacent to Greek Nelia, here across from the campus of Bethune-Cookman. I'm talking again with my guest for today, Miss Adrienne Noel. We're talking about a bit about the importance of HBCUs, and particularly as we're into a new generation of young people that's pursuing it. And, you know, we've seen people really, I would say, shout for their PWI schools because they're on television. They have football contracts, basketball contracts. They have all of those amenities. But when you look at our schools, many times we may not necessarily have those amenities, but we got something else that is indeed equally as important, if not more so. So talk for a minute about what it is what's the glue that keeps us together and that attracts people to want to come to an HBCU.
Well, so I think there is something to be said for being in a place where the folks at the bursar's office may look like an auntie of yours, or the person who is at the cafeteria looks like your cousin, your second cousin, who you met one time before at maybe the family reunion.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that I appreciated when I went to Howard University. The fact that there were so many people who looked like me, and looked like me, not necessarily just resembling me, but they looked like people that I knew, like members of my family. Not to mention the fact that, okay, again, at Howard, I did have two relatives who were professors. And again, they were able to really help me understand how to navigate within the university system. But I can also speak to people that I knew. I remember professors who, again, would call us up and make sure that if we were in, somehow kind of veering off the straight and narrow, they would be ready to intervene because, again, I think they felt some sort of obligation to us, the younger generation. They, again, put their kind of protective arms around us. So that was one aspect of it. There was also the culture. I had not learned to play spades until I actually went to college. And that was part of that was part of the initiation. And actually, we joke, so several of the alumni in the area from Howard, we all joke about how that has to be part of the pre-orientation that we give our students before they go off to Howard University, because spades is big. I mean, it's big in the Black community. For me, coming from the Caribbean, I knew games similar to spades, but I did not know spades. And the opportunity to really engage with other people, that was critical. The other thing that I enjoyed at Howard was just the sense of history. And again, I will speak to Howard because that's my experience. But I know for a fact all of our HBCUs have a bit of that history, that longevity on campus, where they can, whether it's you go to the chapel and you see, solemnly where big moments in history actually took place with student activism, chapel being part of it, a meeting space for things to actually happen. Or you go to the library and walk through the stacks and you can see that, again, generations of alumni spent time here, and it's an opportunity to kind of reconnect with the history. At a lot of our HBCUs, they are involved in cutting edge science and technology, and we've been doing that for centuries, basically. You think, I was just thinking, I didn't know of the Tuskegee, what was the Tuskegee Institute years ago, because I'd heard of Carver and his work with peanuts, but it didn't connect to me that this was an HBCU. But, as you know, Judge, many of our academic institutions, our HBCUs, came up because of the work that they were doing in agriculture to give those who look like us those cutting edge technologies at the time in agriculture.
Right.
So again, I can speak to what I saw at Howard, but I know that happens everywhere at each of our. Again, we've just got over 100 HBCUs, and that is something that we need to work hard to protect, because there are so many occasions where I think we're in a time where many norms are being dismantled. Things that we took for granted are being broken, and they might be broken irreparably. So it is upon us to really put our arms around our HBCUs, whether it's, with the kids that we were sending off to school with them, or supporting our universities, but making sure that they are here to serve another generation of students who then will go out into the world to do big things. We're at a time where we really have to be careful and make sure that we protect what is ours.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, as we can, and I think the idea that HBCUs offer is that it helps to develop the whole person. I was just thinking about, yes, we got football season coming up, but look at what happens from football season. You got cheerleaders, you got band, you got dancerettes. Those are people that are not specifically connected to that sport, but they are connected in the general sense, and they do end up getting a much broader view of life. Let's put it that way. And of course, the same is true for so many other areas. We look at things which you learn about social action, such as the importance of voting, things that, as opposed to so many places, would probably just completely ignore it by saying that it's not with you. And but here we are. You get people who are explaining, who tell us the history of, and inspire us through that history. I remember seeing a one-man. This was a play, and it was on DVD, but it was a one-man show, and it took place at Howard's Performing Theater, and it was put together by Lawrence Fishburne, and he, of course, did the piece was amazing because it actually put it in the context of what was happening with Thurgood Marshall, throughout the time of his tenure. And so a lot of people don't understand the pressures that these gentlemen go through, but they work hard in order to be able to get us where we needed to be. So that's important. That's really important. When we think about what the numbers are going to be for this coming year, I'm glad to see that there's just about every HBCU so far is anticipating an increase over last year. And last year was an increase over the year before. So they are really, not because of so much, there's rationale that they'll probably try to come up with. But the reality is that you got a lot of people that say, hey, look, I no longer want to be in a place where somebody's calling me, the N-word. I don't want to be in a place where folks take me for granted. I want to be in a place where I can feel
Exactly.
wanted and also comforted. Okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And and I would also add for parents, because I am now a parent of a child who is getting ready to go off to college.
Mm-hmm.
It can be scary.
Yes.
I know that there. So my daughter has access to a whole host of different universities. There are lots of different places that have approached her, wanting her to come in and matriculate as a student there. But my daughter represents the hopes and dreams of our family, to the next generation.
Yes.
So we want to be sure that she's in a place where there will be people who will look out for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we know that she needs to grow up and become, this upstanding member of the community, an adult who can, stand on their own. But the process to do that, I think we've actually lengthened that from one generation to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So I want my child to be in a place where I know she will be sheltered,
That's good.
given the opportunity to develop, but still kind of, sheltered from the if she is making decisions that might not be for the best, there's still somebody who will look at her and say, listen, pull up, pull up, pull up. No, nope, nope, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make sure that you are at my class at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking to see you there tomorrow because you've missed the last 2 classes. Those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. And thank God for those individuals, because when you compare the small class sizes for HBCUs and an occasional lecture hall, but I was thinking about this, some of the stories of people who, like say in PWIs, you have large classes. Typically, those things are maybe taught by grad assistants, and you don't get a chance to really know the professor, because you're one of a number of 180 in the class.
Exactly.
And so you're not going to get a chance to get to know the professor as such, which is also kind of crazy because, those people will make a difference not only for the moment, but for your lifetime, because that's the world, and not because they have to, but because they'll choose to. And that to me is something that's very valuable and it's another one of those intangible assets that you cannot prove, but you realize that it's important that we have. And the testimony upon testimony of young people who have, finished HBCUs, they've done well in their careers, but most of them, if not all of them, can look back and point out the fact that there was somebody from that school that was instrumental in turning their life around and getting them on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, look, our time quickly goes by. I always call this the fastest hour in radio, but it is obviously come and gone. But I hope that something that we have said here today will inspire those of you who have kids that are rising seniors in high school. Consider an HBCU for your work. I mentioned about that you get all these multiple choice exams oftentimes in the PWI, but you're going to get some opportunities to do some writing, and that's what you find by having both the manual, or what we call it, multiple choice, or you have those which help to force you to develop your writing skills.
Right.
And in the long run, your writing skills are going to be difference makers for us all. So.
Yes, that's
all
very
right.
true.
Well, I've enjoyed our conversation. I know we're going to have
It
to.
has been my pleasure.
All right.
I enjoyed our conversation as well.
All right.
I sure did.
All right. Well, we're going to say until the next time, and we will continue to have this conversation going forward, trying to help prepare the next generation to pull out the greatness that God has put within each and every one of us. And so that's why those HBCUs, no matter which one you choose, they are all a part of that process. And we see that because we've experienced it and we know it to be true. So thank you again,
We know it to be true.
Ms. Adrian. We appreciate you, and we'll just say until the next time.
Until the next time.
All right.
And good afternoon to everyone out in Radio Land.
All right. Very good. Well, have a great day. We appreciate you and look forward to talking with you soon. To all of our listeners out there, until next week, you've been listening to The Judge Speaks here on Joy 106.3 FM. Don't forget, call in, leave a message, but make sure, above all else, prepare yourself. Mark August 18th coming up rapidly. It's on the calendar. What is that all about? Election, primary election here in Florida. And so that's so necessary, so important, and it is in keeping with whatever our topics were today, helping to be a difference maker in our lives through education as well as through voting. Thank you again. See you next week.
We've shared the truth, we've shared the wisdom. Now take what you heard and let it make a difference in our homes, in our families, in our communities. There is always something we can do. Keep the faith, stand for what is right, lift someone along the way. This is The Judge Speaks with retired Judge Hubert Grimes. Until next time, tune in, be encouraged, be inspired. The Judge